Welcome to Catholic Charities' weekly presentations on employment strategies and tips and financial literacy. I'm Jacob Chichuk, and I am one of the employment specialists here at Catholic Charities Kansas City St. Joseph. In today's presentation, I will be discussing about budgeting and the 6 simple steps in getting started on your budgeting journey. Let's begin with what is budgeting. Budgeting is the process of creating a plan to spend your money. So what do they mean by that? What they mean is that one of the goals of budgeting is having your money work for you. Now, this is where you take control of your finances, and in the end, you're going to improve your financial stability and security. Remember, budgeting is going to be difficult at first, but once you understand it and why you're creating a budget, then it's going to come easy to you and you're going to start doing it a lot better. Now, what do you create a budget for? What you create a budget for is reducing your spending, understanding where your money is going, identifying any bad habits, paying off any debt or loans, prioritizing spending on things important to you, like going out or going on a date, those sort of things, and then saving for your future. So now that you understand a little bit about budgeting and why you create one, you are ready to take the first 6 steps in your journey to budgeting. So what are the 6 steps in making a budget? The 6 steps in making a budget are 1. Gather your financial paperwork. 2. Calculate your income. 3. Create a list of monthly expenses. 4. Determine fixed and variable expenses. 5. Total your monthly income and expenses. And 6. Make adjustments to those expenses. Now in the next few slides, I'm going to discuss each one of these steps individually. Step 1. Gather your financial paperwork. Now this is probably going to be your most important step because you're going to gather as much financial paperwork as you can find, and this is really going to help you get an idea of how much stuff your money is going towards that you bring in each month. But maybe you're not familiar with what type of financial paperwork you need to gather. So financial paperwork can be anything from bank statements, recent utility bills, W-2s and pay stubs, credit card bills, even receipts from the last 3 months, as well as mortgage and rent payments, and yes, even auto loan statements. And once you've gathered all that financial paperwork, you're going to be able to move on to step 2. Step 2, calculate your income. Now, how do we go about calculating your income? You want to use your net income, and your net income is your total take-home pay after taxes or after health insurance if you have any. And when you're calculating your income, you may need to use your whole household income because if you have a spouse and you guys have the same bank account, their income and your income is going into that bank account, which means you have to take account for those 2 incomes to go towards your budget. Now, maybe you're on a variable income, and a variable income is like seasonal or freelancer. And if you are on a variable income, you just need to use the income from your lowest earning month in the past year as your baseline. Now remember, you have to utilize all of your income that you get every month, and sometimes that may include child support or Social Security. Once you've gathered all your income and you've calculated it, you can move on to step 3. Step 3 is creating a list of monthly expenses. And in this step, this is where you're going to utilize step 1, which remember was gathering all your financial paperwork. And the reason why we're utilizing step 1 is because financial paperwork is all of your monthly expenses that your money is going towards every month. And those expenses could include your mortgage or rent payments, car payments and or insurance, groceries, utilities, entertainment, personal care, even eating out, and childcare. And to help you determine these expenses, you're going to utilize those bank statements, receipts, and credit card statements that you collected from the last 3 months. And once you've gathered all your monthly expenses, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to separate those out into 2 separate categories. Step 4 is determine fixed and variable expenses. Remember, in step 3, you created a list of all your monthly expenses, and I mentioned that after you've done that, you're going to separate those out into 2 separate categories, and those 2 separate categories are fixed expenses and variable expenses. Fixed expenses are going to be your mandatory expenses that stay the same every month. Now these could include car payments, mortgage and rent payments. Maybe you have a set free internet service, or trash pickup, as well as any regular daycare. And then variable expenses, those are expenses that change or vary each month. And those could include groceries, gas, entertainment, going out, or gifts for family and friends. And once you've separated all your expenses into those two separate categories of fixed and variable expenses, you're ready to move on to step 5, where we can start really diving into the budget. All right, so you've calculated your income and you've created a list of monthly expenses. Now you're ready for step 5. Step 5 is totaling your monthly income and expenses. In this step, you're going to find out if you are spending more or less on expenses than what you bring in each month. So if your income is higher than your expenses, then you're already off to a good start, because with extra money, you can put it towards areas such as debt, retirement, savings, or maybe you want to have an emergency fund. And if your income is lower than your expenses, that's okay too, because there is an option to help you get in the right direction. There's a tool that you can use, and it's called the 50-30-20 rule. In this rule, it's going to take 50%, 30%, and 20% of your income and separate it out to those needs. And so what that means is it's going to take 50% of your income and want it to go towards your necessities, so like your fixed expenses. And then 30% of your income is going to go towards your wants. And your wants are going to be like those variable expenses. And then the 20% of your income is going to go towards savings, retirement, or debt. And once you've gathered all your monthly income and expenses, you know where you're at, you're off to just starting your budget. All right, you have now completed steps 1 through 5. After completing steps 1 through 5, you may see that you are spending more than what you bring in each month. This means you just need to change or adjust something within your budget, which brings us into step 6. Step 6 is making adjustments to expenses. But where should you start when making those adjustments? The first place to start is with your variable expenses. Remember, you have two categories of expenses, fixed and variable. Fixed are the ones that stay the same every month, and variable are the ones that change every month. The reason we start with adjusting variable expenses is because these are the unknown expenses. You don't necessarily know how much you need for your variable expenses, and therefore it's easier to take away certain ones. If you think about it, the fixed expenses take a certain amount from your income every month, meaning you should know how much money you have left over to go towards your variable expenses. Knowing this, you need to use the leftover money for the necessity items in your variable expenses. There may be times where you aren't going to the movies or the bar. There may even be times where you aren't getting lunch or dinner from McDonald's or Taco Bell. Remember, sometimes you have to sacrifice the things you want for the things you need. Now, let's say you finish steps 1 through 5 and you see that you're spending far more than you bring home, or maybe you're in extreme debt. That's okay. This just means that you need to look at cutting down on your fixed expenses or getting a higher income. Now you can start cutting down on your fixed expenses by refinancing your car, or finding cheaper car insurance, or even lowering your rent payments. One of the big issues that we see in people's budget is they are spending way too much on their rent. A lot of people nowadays like to rent apartments, duplexes, or houses, but they tend to spend too much on rent for those. Sometimes just by finding a good place to live but with lower rent will help you get into the right direction. Remember, your goal of budgeting is to get your income and expenses equal. Once equal, your income will be all accounted for. To summarize, I discussed the 6 steps to starting a budget. Now these steps are just the start to your budgeting journey. And remember, budgeting is not going to be easy, especially if this is the first time that you're doing it. But if you stick to it every month, you're going to become an expert pretty fast. And like I said, do this every month and do these 6 steps every month, because this will help you keep up to date on your expenses. And it's also going to help you understand if you're overestimating or underestimating your expenses as well. Again, my name is Jacob Chichuk, and I'm one of the employment specialists here at Catholic Charities Kansas City St. Joseph. If you have any questions about this presentation or anything else that our Employment Services Department does or offers, please feel free to reach out to Catholic Charities, or you can reach out to myself. My information is here on this slide.